Hi guys, I've been wanting to do a video regarding the Line6 Helix for a while now. I've had it for a few months and I think it's an amazing guitar processor, amp modeler, whatever you want to call it. Um, a lot of people have been asking me about how I use this live and how it has replaced my previous analog rig which I used to have, and how I get my tones. What are there any tricks that I use? Do I have any sort of special treatment to the sound or to the kind of amps I use in the modeler or IRs or whatever? I've had a lot of questions coming to me, so I decided to maybe make a video and explain what I do with what I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate the preset that I use for most of my live work with Underground Authority, and I have a very specific need for the Helix, which is why I opted for the Helix LT as opposed to, say, the Helix HX Stomp, which I was also considering to use along with my analog board that I already had. I went in for the Helix LT for two reasons. One, because I did not need the Helix, the big Helix, because it contains ins and outs that I don't really need, particularly in my situation. The Helix LT is cheaper and it's got the same audio quality, it's got the same chips from what I know, and it's just amazing and it suits my needs perfectly. Now, mind you, this video is not a comparison video where I'm pitting the Helix up against, say, the AX8 or the Kemper or things that are equal in price or nearby in price or different amp modelers. This is not what this video is about. This video is about how I use the Helix and how I think you could try using the Helix and what it specifically does for my tone. So I'm just going to go over some of the snapshots that I have made for my preset. I use just one preset on stage. The reason I do this is because I can have the trails on my delays. I do not have to wait for time for the little lag that is there in between presets. It's a choice. I can work around it and use presets as well, but it gives me the feeling of playing a real rig where we do not have 100 amps to choose from. We don't have a million settings done. In a real rig, in a real life situation, there are a limited number of things that you can use, and these things are what make you got to get your sound out of it. And I try to approach making tones on the Helix in the same manner, in the way that I would approach working with a real amp. It's a zone, it's a feel. An amp in the room when you're playing, it has its own vibe. Distortion pedals and overdrive pedals have their own vibe. It's a culture. I think even the color of the OD pedal kind of has an impact of how you perceive it to how you perceive the sound. And of course, there's playing feel, there's a lot of other things. Coming to what a processor, I think a processor is. I think a processor is all about trying to make the best out of your equipment, and rather than trying to chase some its real world counterpart and try to get it exactly like how you would feel you are playing a Marshall JCM 800 or a Mesa Boogie Mark IV as the popular models. I think it's more about getting the right sound for your own situation, and I'll just demonstrate what I did to get the sound that I use on stage. If you like it, that's awesome. Please, hit me up, comment on the video. I would like to make more videos about the Helix, and of course this awesome Gibson Alex Lifeson signature, the Les Paul Axcess. This is the Les Paul Axcess, and thank you Gibson Guitar Corporation for giving this to me. And this is just a beast of a guitar. It's got coil taps, and it's everything. It's my everything. It's my sound, and that plugged into the Helix is all that's it. That's what I do. So anyway, I'll just go over the patch. So on the Helix, there are foot switches A, B, C, D, 4 on top and 4 at the bottom. Other 4 on top and 4 at the bottom. Other than the bank changes in the mode and the tap. So what I've done is the top row is my 4 snapshots for the preset, and the bottom row is 4 stomp boxes which I have used, which I have assigned each of them so that I can access them at any point of time in any of my snapshot situations, which is what I need. So I'll just quickly go over the rig, go over the routing, and tell you what I've used, the kind of amps I've used, what kind of cabinet simulation I've used. Own Hammer IRs, by the way, they are amazing. As you can see, I have my input, which is basically the guitar input. I just have a cable going in, or when I use my wireless system. I have used different values of the threshold on the input gate depending on the snapshot. As you can see, it's changing as I change the snapshot because of the amount of drive that I use. I don't like to use a particular noise gate block or a noise suppressor block, because I do not, first of all, play with a lot of gain, and I like to depend on good cables and a good power system so that I can so that my rig can be as realistic as possible. And personally, I don't like too much of high gain where I require a noise suppressor, and I also don't like the ultra modern hard gate sound. It's awesome, it sounds great, and I would do that in recordings, but when I'm playing live, I like to get a little bit of, you know, a little bit of the chuggy feel. I like that little bit of give that an amp sound has, because that's what I've been used to all my life. So, well, anyway, so that's the input gate. Then I have a compressor, which is in the Legacy, a blue compressor, which is, I think, modeled on the Boss compressor. I think I chose this because I always think of compressor pedals as blue because I've always had a Boss compressor. But you know, just general, according to whatever I needed, the compression. Then is my Dhyana drive, which I use mostly in the clean channel, and you know, I can kick it up sometimes in the rhythm channel to give it even more of that oomph. So then comes the Dhyana drive. After that, I have the Kinky Boost, which I use with my overdriven amps, and well, it's just the bright and the boost on it is just on, and you know, nothing really changes except in my 4th snapshot, which is my solo channel, where I give a little bit of drive, because then it gives a little more hair into my solo, and I like it. After that is my clean amp. For the clean situation, I have used the Jazz Rivet 120, which is, I think, based on the Roland JC 120. I have played that amp in real life, and to be very honest, I don't think that I mean, it's a great model of the amp, as in the characteristics of the clean, but my aim here was not to recreate the experience that I have had with the JC 120. It was just trying to get a super clean amp, because I like playing super clean amps, and you know, this worked out just perfectly. You can see the settings. I have the drive at 2.4, bass at 6.4, mid cut, the mid is cut, it's at 3.1, treble at 6.7, presence at 6.8. The master is on full because you know, it just gives more beef to the amp, I guess. And this stays as it is. The clean amp stays as it is, just like in a real situation when you would have a clean amp and it's just there and it's set to one system and you're not going and changing anything. That's how my clean amp is. After that, I have another amp, and obviously I don't play both the amps together. As I change snapshots, the amps change as well. The next amp I have is the Archetype Lead, which is basically the PRS Archon, and I love this amp. At least the model of the amp. I haven't played the real amp, and I'm sure I'm gonna love it if I encounter it. or if I happen to get a chance to play it sometime. Well, you can see the settings right here. What I think I changed something, which, there we go. You can see the settings right here, and I really like the depth control because it adds this kind of it gives the impression that there is more air and more body and more fullness. I really like that. I messed around with the settings a little bit till I got the sound that I wanted, the kind of distortion sound that I like for, say, my rhythm tone. I like the raw sound of an amp. As you can see in this snapshot, I have got nothing going on, just the noise gate, none of these effects before the amp are on. This is the volume pedal block, and I have my two IRs and my delay, and that's it. I have nothing else on. I have, of course, the, do I have the reverb on this? No, I don't even have the reverb on, because it's just that, the sound of the amp. And I think that's the way I approach it. A lot of people like to EQ their sounds a lot to get it exactly the way they want, but I think that you know, for me, playing an amp is just going and, you know, whatever settings are in front of you, you do that and you try to get the best sound, and I try to emulate that experience. Mind you, I don't try to emulate playing through an amp. I just try to emulate that experience because that's the most inspiring for me. So that gives me my sound. The most important thing about this sound is the IRs that I use. The IRs that I've used is the V60 Modern. This is, I think, from the mixes folder in the Own Hammer things, the V60 M+, because I like fat mid-heavy amps. And on the other side, on the right side, I have a Marshall, an Own Hammer Marshall V30, which is again an M+ mid-boosted of a Royer 121. No particular reason for choosing these, I just like the way they sounded. And what I have done on the right channel is I have delayed it by 13 milliseconds. What this does is it just gives the impression that there are two amps instead of one, or two cabinets instead of one, and if they're slightly delayed, and we know this trick, they sound awesome. It sounds great, and in a live situation it helps to make the sound of the band wider. Since the bass is in the middle, the kick and snare are in the middle, the voice is in the middle, I can pan the backing vocals a little bit, but if the guitar is also in the middle, the band would sound really small. So that's why I use this, and in fact in my next snapshot I have it even wider for the choruses, so people get the impression that the sound is becoming bigger. Well, that's my next snapshot, which is the same. I just use one overdriven amp, one clean amp, nothing, no more. I think being economical as far as your choices in effects go is very important, even though I can put a lot more as far as the Helix is concerned. I think I like to, you know, if something works, why would you want to add things and make things more complicated? In my solo setting, I actually get rid of the stereo. As you can see, the delay got switched off. I actually get rid of that because you wouldn't want to hear a guitar solo slightly delayed. It would sound very chorusy. But since the delay is on, it makes the guitar solo sound in the center, but the delay is, you know, bouncing off each other on the left and the right, which, you know, makes up for the wideness. And well, I want the guitar solos to come out straight from the middle, so that's how I do it. And you know, it's see, I just love it. I love it. Then there's the volume pedal, which you know, everybody needs the volume pedal. On the expression 1 or expression 2, on the other part of the expression pedal, I have this pitch shifter, which is set to you know, 100%. At 100% on the toe, it's +12, which is required for certain things that I do, like say for example when I'm playing the Underground Authority cover of Don't Let Me Down, I like to play I love this sound, and I just like to have it there, and I kind of use it in all my snapshots. When I'm playing solo, I like to use it sometimes. I just love playing around with it. I mean, the likes of Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai, these guys are my inspirations. I just love that pitch shifter sound. I like to play around with it a lot. So it's nice to have it. Then it goes down to path 2A, because Helix gives me the option to have both the DSP paths in one with one input and everything. So it splits here, an even split. So whatever was there till now on the top row is all mono sounds, right? It's just the guitar going and getting affected in a mono manner. Over here, as it comes to path 2A, is where I split it evenly between the two IRs. I use IRs in place of the internal cabinets, which are there on Helix. Not saying that they are bad in any way whatsoever. They are amazing. I love them. I in fact have the same tones, the same patch with the internal cabinets that I use, and it worked really well for me. I just, sometimes I feel like the Onhammer IRs, and I love the way it feels. It feels different. I wouldn't say better or worse, because I've had great experiences with both. Right now, I'm feeling better playing the Onhammer IRs. If I feel like it, I would just go into the standard cabinets. In fact, when we try to make the whole split tone, I will do it with the standard cabinets, so you can try it at home if you don't have the Onhammer IRs. That splits. And on the right channel, the delay, as I spoke about, is just a simple delay with no feedback, 100% mix. What this does is just delays one of the signals to a certain point, and it just helps. Then it just comes back to a stereo where one is panned to the left and one is panned to the right, and then I have my stereo effects, which is my stereo chorus. There it is, my stereo chorus. These are the settings. My delay. In between, I have this pitch, which is my harmony, which I mentioned I use for one of the songs. And there is the reverb. The reverb is also changing with every snapshot according to what I might need it for. And that's it. It's a simple rig, but it sounds great. This has been a long video. I'm gonna upload another video very soon, where I'm gonna talk about how I made this, and we're gonna try and make a simple version of this. Maybe 2 amps, the split cabinet block, the delay, and maybe get the snapshots ready. And if everything works out, if everything goes great, if you guys have more questions, please ask in the comments. And maybe if you could subscribe, then I'll have more videos coming up where I want to do some playthroughs on the music that I have released with Underground Authority and Paloma and Adil. And also I will be playing my instrumental music, which is my own original music that I'm going to be taking out very soon. I have been playing those songs live for a while, and I want to explore the Helix as much as I can. I'm going to do some videos about this guitar and my other guitars, which are there somewhere. And I'm going to talk about my pedals. I love gear. I want to talk about gear. If you guys own a processor, I want to help you out with concepts of how you can use it live. There is a very small gap between analog and digital these days, and I just hope that I can get the message across that it's not about what gear you have or what sound you're trying to emulate. It's about making the best of what you have, and that's what this video is about. And if this helps you, that's awesome. And if you guys have any suggestions, please tell me. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye bye.